Today we are going to be looking at identifying the 4 different kinds of sentences in English. Some of this should be reviewed because you should already know that there are 4 basic types of sentences. We've talked about this in the past when we talked about some of the introductory ideas of grammar. So you should know that there are statements, exclamations, questions, and commands in English. Those are the 4 basic sentence types. Each one has a different job. And we're going to go through their jobs first, and then we'll do some examples in a second part. So, bear with me and get ready. Just for reference, that was a command. Now, starting with statements. Statements are most of the sentences that you will come across, either when you're listening or when you're reading. They're probably the most common kind of sentence when people are speaking or when people are writing. Statements are simply giving information. That's what a statement does. It gives information. So it could be a fact, it could be opinion, it could be an observation, it could be an idea, it could be something imagined. All of this is just giving a complete thought to a reader or a listener. And it generally will follow this pattern. There will be some kind of a subject at the beginning of the sentence and a verb after the subject or subjects. Remember that the subject is the person, place, thing, or idea that the sentence is about, and there could be more than one, and the verb is just the action or being type verb, and again, there could be more than one in a sentence, but this is the pattern that you will find in statements. Subject and then verb. In fact, you'll find that same pattern, subject and then verb, in exclamations. Exclamations look almost exactly like statements. They do the same thing, but an exclamation will add emotion. So statements will be very calm. They will just give information, like a boring teacher. But exclamations will add emotion, they will add energy, they will sometimes add sadness or fear. Any kind of emotion is added, well, first and foremost by the language and the context, but then with the exclamation mark. If you add this to any statement, you create an exclamation, and that means you have just added some kind of emotion. Other than that, the grammar is essentially the same. Pretty easy. Subject, then verb, for both statements and exclamations. The only difference is the exclamation adds emotion. Now we get into the slightly more complicated sentence types, starting with the question. The reason the questions can get complicated is because they switch the position of the verb and the subject, usually. There are situations where question marks might be added to the end of statements, and they make sense. But the job of the question is very different from the job of the statement or the exclamation. While the statements and exclamations give information, questions ask for information. I don't think students understand the beautiful power of the question. Did you know people are unique in their capacity to get more information from the world by asking questions? You should ask questions all the time. Be curious, ask things of people and get more information. It's like a superpower. You can just get more information by asking a bunch of questions. Use these words. Who, what, where, when, why, how. These are the question words. They will usually begin the question, and then there will be a verb very shortly thereafter. And in order to find the subject of your question, it's usually easiest to just answer the question and find the subject in that statement. So when you get the information that you want, it might be easier for you to break down the subject and verb identity that way. Lastly, we have commands. Commands, again, are a little different in their grammatical structure because commands are the only kinds of sentences in English that may not have a subject at all. That's because commands always pretty much have the same subject. And do you know what the subject is of a command? It's you. That's right, you, the word, Y-O-U, not you per se. It's not like everyone is always telling you what to do, even though sometimes it might feel that way. It just means that commands are directions or instructions, and they are telling you what to do. And that's how they're used. So, let's get into some examples. By way of examples, I have given you a little story. So, statements. My mom likes a clean room. Subject is mom. Verb is likes. Okay? And that should make sense. Most moms like clean rooms. Now, I am messy. This is just true. I think it's because I'm a little creative and I just don't have the time or the patience for things like cleaning and things like that when there's so much creative things to do. But it's true, I'm messy. I hate cleaning! I just hate it! I don't like it. I mean, yes, if things are like moldy or gross or if there's strange smells, I will clean. I'm not like gross, but a little bit of clutter, I just leave my things alone! Exclamation. And now, my dad is getting angry! Fear. See how that works? My dad then, of course, asks the question, are you going to do your job? You'll note here, if I answer the question, I am going to do my job, then the subject is I in the answer, which means in the question, the subject is you. And here's the verb, am going to do, okay? I am going to do my job. So, verb, are going, subject, you. You are going to do your job. That would be the statement. You are going to do your job. But the question changes the grammar. Verb comes before the subject. And you can see here, when will it be done? It is the job. This is the subject. My job, the job of cleaning my room, will be done by the time you get home. I swear, I promise. Please, 10 more minutes with my video games. Right, 10 more minutes playing games. Wow. When will it be done? When is a question word, but will is the first part of the verb construction. And sometimes with questions it gets tricky because it, the subject, is in the middle of the verb phrase. More on questions, I guess, in another video, but just understand that the grammar changes in questions. With the command, do it now! I mean, again, my dad doesn't really talk like that. We don't treat our students like that. This is all just for a little bit of edutainment value, okay? Clean your room. Seriously, you watching this right now, clean your room. Make your mother happy. I will watch this video myself in the future, and maybe then I will listen to me. Clean your room. Now, let's review. Oh, did you see? Did you see the ... These don't end sentences. Sometimes in writing or even in speaking, people will say something and then and that's not a complete thought, and if I were writing that down, it would look like a dash at the end of the sentence. Or if I'm just, kind of talking and then... That's the ellipses, the dot at the end of a sentence, and it means it's not a complete thought. So, I know that we like to say only 3 punctuation marks end sentences, and that's true. Because when you see these, it means the sentence was not complete. It's not a complete thought. So now, let's review.
Identifying kinds of sentences review. What is a statement sentence? A statement gives information, such as facts, opinions, observations. What is an exclamation sentence? An exclamation adds emotion, such as joy, excitement, fear, anger, sadness, etc. What is a question sentence? A question asks for information, using words like who, what, when, where, how, and why. What is a command sentence? A command tells someone or something what to do, such as instructions or directions. How many different kinds of punctuation marks are there at the end of sentences? There are only 3 different punctuation marks that end sentences: period, question mark, exclamation mark. What kind of word usually begins a command sentence? You usually begin a command sentence with an action verb before the subject. What kind of words usually begin a question sentence? Questions usually begin with a question word and a verb before the subject. What kind of sentences end in periods? Statements always end in periods, and commands can too. What kind of sentences end in exclamation marks? Exclamations always end with exclamation marks, and commands can too. What kind of sentence always ends with a question mark? A question always ends with a question mark.